there was no color TV in the whole country. Like to import a color TV was like importing like cocaine. It's like it's like how do you have color? Where did you get all this money to have color TV? That's how rare, and you had to get a license, like a gun license, to have a color TV.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Another Monday. You're being welcomed by Joseph Rutakangwa.
Rutakangwa.
Oh my God. Let me say it again.
Rutakangwa. Joseph Rutakangwa.
Joseph
Rutakangwa.
Rutakangwa.
Rutakangwa. Ka. There's a K. Rutakangwa.
Rutakangwa.
Yes.
There we go, guys.
Yes.
I got it.
Finally.
Yeah. So Joseph's entrepreneur, an artist, and an actor as well.
I mean, I saw some
posts on your Instagram.
Officially.
A man of all trades. So I don't know. There's so much to dive in, and I feel like diving in first on like your business. Like I was reading a bit about yourself on a Forbes article.
Yes.
Dude, how did that even come about? The Forbes article and your business. Tell me a little bit more about your business.
Yes. So thank you so much for having me on the podcast. This is insane. I love it. The business is essentially we run an AI market intelligence platform that helps global brands access market data from global markets. So brands like Colgate, L'Oreal, Red Bull, and so forth use our platform to access market data, not just in the US alone, but in the US and across Latin America, across Asia, to be able to build, to roll out products that are meeting the preferences of consumers in those markets, and therefore, they're able to grow and capture more revenue from that.
So I also want to tie something together. You're, like I mentioned originally, you're an artist, you sing.
Yes.
Do you tie your AI or your technology, do you use that side of you to make music as well? Or is that something completely different?
Yeah. Well, that's something completely different. So I work like 14 hours a day, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. So that's 70 hours-ish a week.
Damn.
I get exhausted by my AI worlds and data world and so forth. It's too much work. It's daunting. So by Friday night, I just don't want to see anything company related. So I created my music side.
How did that begin?
So it began before I even launched Ruazi. So it began in I was still working on developing models before launching Ruazi. So it was 2020. COVID hit. At the time, I was in Mauritius at that time.
Wait, where?
In Mauritius. Mauritius is a small island in the Indian Ocean. It's close to...
what were you doing over there? What the heck?
It's a beautiful place.
Was there internet?
You should Google it. It's absolutely wonderful. It's beautiful.
We'll put it up.
Yeah, it has like the cheapest. The US is extremely expensive. It has the cheapest, fastest internet. Very, very high income country.
Wow.
Very wealthy. All the rich guys from Europe and so forth go to set up houses there.
Yeah.
Very nice people. Extremely, extremely nice. Like, if you know how you have road rage here.
Oh my God.
In Mauritius. In Mauritius, I see this every day. First of all, if you're crossing, people just stop. Even if you're not even close to the road, people just stop and wait for you to cross. If someone, like I saw someone hit the other guy, they were on a roundabout.
Yeah.
And they hit a car. It was the back car's fault. Hit the car in the back. The guy in the front car got out of the car, came, and this guy got out, asked him if he's okay. I'm like, so you hit me, and the guy's like, are you okay? Is everyone fine? And then, so they're asking each other if everyone is fine, and then they gave each other details. I was like, these guys are extremely civilized. Yeah. So Mauritius are the best. Like, they're very nice. So that's why I love Mauritius. Like, even every year, my family is there. My mom and my siblings, they live there. Yeah. But I'm originally from Tanzania. But Mauritius,
I was gonna get into that too.
Yeah. Mauritius is where we go there for December's and January. That's where we spend
family
most of the
vacation.
time. Yes.
Maybe 100%. we'll be at the next family vacation.
Yeah, you're invited.
Yeah.
So
going back to the music.
So I was in Mauritius at the time. COVID hit.
Yeah.
And we all went to like complete lockdown, right? And the fear that came up for me, right, and that was like going on in the country, wasn't that we're going to get COVID. We didn't have like severe COVID and anything like that, but it was like we would run out of food because it's an island.
Yeah.
And we started running out of like margarine and butter and things like that. It's like, okay, shit, this is coming, right? And my mind went to like a World War III scenario where, big countries would be like in hell, but the small countries like Mauritius, you'd be so isolated, you can't produce enough food, and you don't get any imported foods, so you start going hungry. Now, what happens if people go hungry? Start eating each other. Right?
Yeah.
that was where my brain was going, right?
You're like, I don't think the people there are going to be so nice after this.
I'm like, no. And I'm in my own apartment. I'm single. Guys have 5 minutes. They're going to gang up and I'm going to eat me. Like, we're the guys who are going to get eaten first, right? So I was like, okay, baby, this is it. This is the end. This is it. So I then realized that, I've been so busy working hard with the mind of, I need to work hard, more projects, then I get enough money, then I get a correct studio, then I do a whole album and music videos, I do everything perfectly.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to die and I haven't done that.
Yeah.
So I might as well just take my guitar and start recording and put out whatever.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. So that June of 2020, we got out of lockdown. I had written up my songs. I always get melodies for years, like before that, but I hadn't written, any lyrics. So because of that pressure, I wrote lyrics, and I went to a studio. I didn't care about my, the arrangement. I didn't care about anything because I'm going to die. I better put this thing out.
Yeah.
So I went recording my first song, put it out immediately. Started recording songs since then. So since then, my approach to music has always been, out beyond, like, no need for perfection.
Just put it out there.
How you feel, what came to you, what song feels the most urgent. Because sometimes you get a song, you get melody, maybe you have the lyrics, you write the lyrics, but if you listen to it like 1 day or 2 days later, it doesn't touch you as much.
Yeah.
So you don't end up recording it.
Yeah.
But the ones that bug you, put them out.
Yeah.
The same way. So now it grew into when I launched Wazi, and now the company is hectic and things are moving fast and so forth. Music became my escape. So in my music world, I don't want anything. I just want to completely escape from the world of data and AI and all this, and just do what the heart wants. Like, make it the most genuine thing. It's like, it's not a product. It's just how I feel, the kind of music I like, I listen to, and then put out the lyrics I feel. Now I have like fantasies of, if you had an AI, system that could tell you based on your audience, based on what's going on in the market trends, based on your positioning, like your voice, all that instruments you have, tell you exactly what kind of song you should make, exactly what you should say in the song to get the big results, the viral hits.
Cool. What?
This is a fantasy. It's a fantasy. Yeah. The people who are doing.
Do you think that will actually?
Yeah, we'll get there in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, people who are making calculated viral hits now, the viral hits aren't original. So like there's that. So it's like normal algorithmic viral hits, but they're not original. It's like if you go on Billboard 100, Hot 100. And you start playing, because I used to think, okay, there has to be a pattern. So I started listening to like Billboard Hot 100 songs, going backwards. They're the worst songs you listen to. But the farther back you go, the more interesting the songs start to get, right? To become. What I learned is the guys who are making Billboard Hot 100 songs today, with few exceptions, there's this guy, I forgot the song, country guy from I think Virginia or something, made a very touching song about politics or something like that. It wasn't about politics, but like how difficult life is in the US and so on. Yeah. That song went number one. That song is like extremely original, right? So those songs are very rare because people are using algorithms to predictably put out songs that are going to be viral.
Yeah.
And they're pushing the songs, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not there yet, because for me, for the AI system to correctly predict and retain the originality, that's when you know you've hit it. So like, make me Bob Marley level of music, which is too original, and make it a hit.
Yeah.
That combination is difficult.
But what I'm thinking right now is, once this program or the AI starts to take into effect, there's millions of artists.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to use this same software, and it's going to get saturated. So at that point, can the AI start making a viral hit? Because so many artists are going to start making, wanting to use it.
Yes, because the true viral hit, let me show you. So Bob Marley, absolutely pure. Like, I listen to Bob Marley, I'm like, goodness Lord, this is like absolute pure dripping talent. Has absolutely nothing to do with Michael Jackson's music. Viral, big, the biggest reggae artist in all of time up to right now, and has in the same time as, you know, Michael Jackson, and has absolutely nothing. Of course, you know, Bob died, you know, earlier, but Jackson in the 80s, Jackson 5, you know, going up and being all this big, the same exact timeline, and they coexisted. The same exact timeline with the Beatles and coexisted. Same exact, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, you know, if you look at the 90s, you have the, you know, Boyz II Men, absolute hits, Celine Dion, absolute hits, Mariah Carey, absolute hit, Whitney Houston, absolute hit, Michael Jackson, absolute hit at the same time. So like, these people being extremely talented and putting out absolute golden music doesn't mean someone else can't.
Yeah.
You know? And they will all have the exact same level of impact. That's what I'm saying. For me, like, correctly using Gen AI in music is, your song is going to be absolutely drastically different from mine based on our voice types, based on our actual human experiences, what we went through. Like, I can't write things about, you know, experience that you've gone through. We shouldn't fake experiences, right? So we're just writing what we experienced. Rather, AI is writing based on what, you know, the system has learned from our experiences, based on our, you know, like emotional tendencies, you know, and so forth. And I think that's how we'll say, okay, now we have, you know, the God of music, like the God system, like the God AI system for generating music. Right now, the normal algorithms that I use in music make all artists sound the same. And to me, that's a flaw in the system, because now all rap is going to sound the same. Or, you know, all pop songs sound exact same. If you listen to the underlying music, it's the exact same. It is garbage. I hate I just don't like any of the new artists. My favorite artist is Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift's your number one?
My current favorite. Number one? Currently, song? So I have the old songs, the Red album, the Taylor Swift album, like the old songs, and the reason I like Taylor Swift, and I like the folk Taylor Swift. I don't like any of her pop songs. Like Taylor Swift, folk, guitar, singing about her high school love, and you know, that's still, for me, when I listen to that, and people, you know, like, oh, Taylor Swift can't, you know, doesn't have a voice, you know, Beyonce this. Like, if you listen to Taylor Swift right now, today, Taylor Swift is the most emotional artist. Like when she's with her guitar on a tall stool, singing, she's literally like living that song, and she's telling you about people used to laugh about, you know, at us back in 2010, or like, you know, 2009, when I was a Taylor Swift fan for a long time, right? And people would laugh at us like, oh, that's like your high school stuff, that's like childish. I'm like, no, it's real. It's what I was going through. I mean, it's from a girl's perspective, but I relate, you know, I can see exactly experience, zero fakeness in it. You know, like everything is that real.
You feel the emotion.
Simple. Yeah, feel the emotion. Simple, she's not belting her voice. She's not trying to do any tricks. Just telling you that, you know, this guy did this and, you know, came, it was raining. And they just tell you the normal stuff. And to me, that's like music. Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, how is it growing up? I've never met someone who's in the continent of Africa.
Yes.
So how is it growing up over there? Like, how's the weather? How's the culture?
Yes.
Like, how are the roads? Like, what is that whole experience?
Very interesting experience. So now I have an interesting like life path, because it's not straight. So I was born in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, which is like the New York of Tanzania, the big city. I were raised in the house. My first language was Haya, which is a tribal language. So it's not Swahili, which is like the national, famous language.
How many languages do you speak?
I speak 3.
Okay.
Yeah, Haya, Swahili, and English.
Okay.
So my first language was Haya. That's what my parents spoke at the time, and people in the house. And we were raised in a closed, environment. So gated environment. So we didn't interact with kids outside. So our first experience, we were homeschooled by my mom, and my siblings and our first experience of like learning to read, write, and all that was in English.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
So we had like a library in the house, and all the books were in English. My mom would read us like bedtime stories and things like that, all in English.
What was your favorite bedtime story growing up? Did you have one?
The Three Little Pigs.
3 Little Pigs? Yeah. It's a classic, dude.
Yeah, classic. But I ended up loving a lot of the Arabian Nights stories, like the Alibaba and the 40 Thieves.
I've never heard of that one.
Oh,
Producer,
yeah,
have you?
No.
Like Alibaba 40, the Arabian Nights had like Alibaba 40 Thieves, had a lot of like mysterious like hustle stories in the Middle East, right? I also like the Bible stories. So at the time, as kids, the Bible then was like a storybook.
Yeah.
So like the story of
I
Joseph.
remember also
the story of Daniel. Like those stories were also very, very exciting. And then my mom had the stories she had growing up, like from her parents, my grandparents, and she had a lot of versions for those stories, and we would have those at night. Like those are good memories, right? So I grew up homeschooled, then went to kindergarten at the end of like kindergarten. Then for primary school, I went to Uganda, which is a neighboring country. The reason I went to Uganda was because at the time, the country, Tanzania, didn't have enough good like English medium schools, like schools that just speak English. And the schools in Tanzania, because people speak Swahili, even if it's an English-speaking school, kids would speak Swahili because they can't speak in Swahili, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to have like a good command of English because everyone's speaking Swahili. So my parents just wanted me to be in a closed system where I couldn't speak any other language because I just have to speak English because people are from the other country. So they threw us to Uganda. I was 6 years old.
How did you? Is it by car, train, plane?
So we flew at the time. I was. At that time, it was the environment I was born in was a very privileged environment. It wasn't like a typical, like Tanzanian story. So it's going to be like but then, later on in life, that's when I got into reality, right? So, so at the time, it was a very, very privileged, existence. My dad had a computer in the house. It was like one of the only large pieces, like IBM. I bought it from New York.
If I may ask, how old are you?
I'm 1992, so 32.
22?
32.
32?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I was born 1992, so 32.
What?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So the stories I'm telling you about, that's like the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, to me, you look younger. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's the stem cell facial peelers.
You do that? What?
No, I'm just kidding.
Send me the details.
Yeah. So 1992. Went to school when I had my, at home, we had the computer at home and all that. So we accessed in the internet. But this wasn't like a typical, like everyday Tanzanian, growing up experience. It was like a more privileged experience. We had like computers and the internet, and like I was 5 years old, browsing Yahoo and, that's what normal people go through.
Yeah. So you said you were like privileged. What exactly? Because when people hear growing up, and I don't know if it's bad on my part, but I remember like in elementary school and middle school when kids would throw away food, they'll be like, no, don't do that. There's kids in Africa, right?
Yeah.
They would always say that.
Yes.
Always say that.
Yes.
So now that you're saying privileged, like what exactly like were your parents also like a business oriented?
Yes. So
and, what did they do?
Yeah. So my dad was had the first electrical engineering consulting company in the country.
Oh.
So, and his dad was the king's brother. So, we're coming from that line. So his dad's, was the king's brother. My great grand uncle wrote the first book in Tanzania. So that's in the 1800s.
Wow.
So like we're coming from a long line of like the first people who did this. So my dad's dad had like those wealthy, because like those guys who will never be king, you know those guys? Yeah. You have like, you know, Prince William, and then Prince Harry will never be king. Yeah. So my dad's dad was Prince Harry, right? And so because of that, you know, he had too much land, like lands bigger than all of LA, right? Wow. So really big, huge portion.
Was the house you grew up in?
No, nice? That was like in the country, right? Uh-huh. I grew up in the city, so that was like different timelines. But his experience is different. Uh-huh. So my dad's like very old, like 1909, right? It's like that's how, you know, back it goes. He had plenty of land, you know, and that land back then the system was if you have that much land, like as big as LA, mm-hmm. you would have people living in your land. They're working the farms, and they're paying you in harvests, right? Oh. So it's like a feudal system. And when
so you guys never went hungry?
Yeah, exactly. So plenty of food. You don't go hungry. You have like vast, and you have like livestock as well, and so forth. So it's very, very massive. So when the country became independent in 1961, the year after 1962, the government declared, denounced all kingdoms. So everyone who was like king and chief and so forth, and had all this vast, you know, piece of land, all of it was dissolved like that. Then the only land you were left with was the land where your main house sits. So the situation will be like all of LA is one person's land, like the royals. You have small, like the peasants, quote unquote, mm-hmm. and then the main owner of the land has a mansion, you know, somewhere, right? Yeah. That mansion has like a state house grounds of, let's say, 1,000 acres. So that's all you'd be left with, and everyone who is sitting on your land elsewhere, whatever they're sitting on, is theirs.
What? So
wealth just disappeared like that.
Yeah.
You know, like you just shrink wealth like that. So that's what happened to my dad's dad. So my dad saw that, you know, that was what drove him to get into business and build, regain more wealth. Uh-huh. From his perspective, he feels like, oh, you know, we lost wealth. I'm like, come on, you still have 1,000 acres, so you're doing very well, right? But from his perspective, that's like, oh, you know, okay. So, and he was the only son, right? So he went on and started the first electrical engineering consulting company. And that was, you know, he had exposure to Denmark, India, like he traveled the world and ended up starting a company. And that company, that's how he built wealth. So the level of wealth he had was, you know, like we're talking like chartering jets, you know, and that lifestyle. He lived he just lived in a penthouse in a hotel until he got married, and, you know, and so forth. It was a very fancy life, right? And when we were kids growing up, that's the environment we grew up in. And then went to school in Uganda, so boarding school. And years down the line, his business, so governments are changing and so forth. Then I think you've heard this a million times, Africa, corruption and all that. Corruption hit. So my dad is from like a generation which was, you go to school, get A's, Cambridge and all that, you're very smart. Uh-huh. So you think that is, you have merit. So you'll get, you have merit, you're producing a great product in the market, so the market will reward you. Mm-hmm. When there's corruption in play, that system doesn't work. So he was exposed into a system where there's corruption, you need to pay up. If you're not, giving me a cut of the deal, I'm not giving you a project. So he ended up owing the government like millions and millions of dollars. They didn't pay. If you kept feeding, the company, if you don't have revenue coming in, and you have, outstanding invoices for so long, and you're financing, working capital, you're going to go bankrupt. Yeah. So he went bankrupt.
Whoa.
Went bankrupt.
What year is this in?
This is like in 2001.
Okay.
Right? So now I'm 9 years old. Uh-huh. Went bankrupt. We lost everything. We came from flying private all the way to now I'm the kid in the village heading cattle.
Whoa.
And coincidentally, that same year, my grandfather died. So everything, from my dad's perspective, everything came down crashing. And as kids, that was insane to go through, right? And to me, that was a very, very good, right now, retrospectively. At the time, it was shit.
Hindsight.
But in hindsight, that was a very important lesson. Otherwise, I would be like a spoiled brat. Right? So, came down crashing. People were laughing at us, like, where are you guys now? No.
Really?
Yeah, it was insane. Started heading keto and so forth. So now I started building something else for myself, which was, being extremely delusional. So I started having, remember I was, grew up with stories and all that. So I started creating like this, dream world in my mind and started detaching from reality, as days went by. I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I remember I tell people all the time, like my first hardcore depression was when I was 10.
Really?
Because I was 10. Yeah. You're coming from a high life of living this whole life. You have the internet.
Browsing Yahoo.
You're browsing Yahoo.
And now you can't access Yahoo.
At the time of browsing Yahoo, no one has the computer. The computer didn't exist. As a matter of fact, colored television wasn't in the country. Well,
in the 90s?
They had colored television in the 80s. Like my parents, there was no colored TV in the whole country. Like to import a colored TV was like importing like cocaine. It's like how do you have color? Where did you get all this money to have colored TV? That's how rare. And you had to get a license, like a gun license, to have a colored TV. And the TV programs we had in the house were American programs. But guess how we were accessing American programs? From US bases. What? That's how rare. So it's a whole different world.
This is in the 90s.
This is in the early 90s, right? And with time, of course, there was like more democracy and things opened up and so forth. So when we had the computer, it's like they had the computer in like the late 80s. No one had a computer. My dad had a Motorola. Those big Motorola phones that you see with like Michael. Who's the guy in Wall Street? In the movie Wall Street, Michael Douglas, I think.
I've seen the photo.
Yeah, the big Motorola.
Yeah.
My dad had that thing. Now, I'm talking at a time when no one has a cell phone, maybe except the president or whatever.
So who's he calling?
So, people out abroad, because doing business across borders, right? So it's crazy. Like if you hear, right? I was a kid, and I grew up with a house with like a fax machine and internet. So for me, I felt like it was normal. Until we crashed to the ground, I was in a village, then I realized just people don't have access to TVs, people don't have electricity, none of this stuff exists. Yeah. And now from that point on, and my dad abandoned us at that point. So went to the village, he got his breakdown, disappeared.
What?
So we started crawling out of that hole with my mom. So my mom started taking the lead.
Yeah.
So for me, that's where my second act in life started. It's like, okay, you started here, great. I tell people all the time, the rags to riches stories, if you're born poor, is easier to cope with versus if you're born well off and you crash down and now you have to climb up.
Yeah,
it's insanely difficult, right? So my mom started taking us, like, these kids can't be village kids. So we ended up, we lived in a village for like 2 years. Then my mom took us out. Went to school.
What's the village look like?
You would say it's beautiful because you're not suffering. Like if you go there as a tourist, it's absolutely gorgeous. You have plantains. I don't know if you've seen plantains.
Yeah.
Like Jamaican style plantains. Yeah.
I've seen photos, but not.
Yeah, plantains, green everywhere. It's raining. The air is clean. It's very quiet. So if you're coming in as a tourist, it's absolute perfection. But if you're in there, brutal. There's no money. Like, money, currency, money.
Yeah.
There's none. Like,
so you guys are bargaining?
So if you need to get, like, I'll give you an example of how there's no money. You have church, people are Catholic there, like heavy Catholic, almost everyone. They fill a church, like massive building, full, 2 services. Guess how much they collect in offerings? Total. The whole church is full, 2 services. Guess how much they would collect?
In terms of dollars?
The offerings. Yeah, how much they would cost
in dollars?
Yeah.
$2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how poor people are.
Wow.
So you have like 1,000 people attending a church service, and you're collecting $2.
That's insane.
So like, just no money.
I felt it coming because you told me, but
there's no money. There's no money, right? So that world was, and there's no money. You don't have, like, I'll give you another example. So you come from a world of Yahoo and internet and all that. You crash down to that world where the radio isn't there because the batteries are too expensive. And when someone comes from town, and town in this case is like it's like a small, an equivalent of I went to Tuskegee in Alabama. That's the equivalent of what town would be. So you're coming from town, and you buy the batteries, like the Panasonic batteries, you put them in the radio. You're only turning on the radio on like news hours so that the batteries don't run out. But they eventually run out. Now you're too broke that when the batteries run out, you put them on the sun. So they kind of
recharge.
They kind of recharge, and then put out that. That's how you now you can't access music, because now before Spotify. This is like just 1 year before that point. We have like a phono, that phono player. We have a multiplayer CD. It's two different existences, like two different dimensions. So now you're crushing that when music is my tool to correct my mental state.
Yeah.
So now without music, I had to now create this dream alternative. So I started imagining myself living this life that I was seeing on TV, living in this life I would see in books, like that I had memories of, because now we've lost all of those properties, right?
Yeah.
And that was at 9 years old. And I started creating this, this different world. So it took me, I'll go in front and I'll come back. It took me 20 years of building that life to actually live it. So everything I'm living right now, I started building when I was 9 years old in the village, in the trenches. Every single thing. LA, in movies, doing music, running a startup, everything. Happened 20 years, but that's where it started.
How did you leave? How did you
get
out of Africa, like to come to United States? Like, what even happened?
Yeah, exactly. So left the village. My mom took us out of the village, went to a small, terrible town there. Close by, my mom started teaching. She was getting like $5, a month teaching.
Wow.
And then, so living in one room. So you have like one room, not like, you have in the US, one room is like, studio, you have a living room, kitchen, and then you have one bedroom. This means like you open the door, that's it. You have a mattress, you have your stove that you cook outside. Like everything's right there you open one door and everything is right there. So I started living there, 4 kids, mom, we did that, then we moved. Then my mom went to college to get a license.
In Africa?
Yes, in Africa.
Uganda, or is
no, this is in Tanzania. In Tanzania,
okay.
Yeah. To get a license, to become a full-time teacher. Then she became a full-time teacher. Then moved to a different region in the same country. Moved again, and that's where we started life.
Wow.
Like afresh.
Yeah.
And I started building from zero, right? And my objective was, what? The only thing I have is I have my brain. I'd learned too much. When you're homeschooled and you're going to boarding school, more than public school kids and so forth. So my advantage there was, I'll just get A's and be number 1 in class. And that's where I put all my anger. I'm like, look, I can't be broke and 10th in class.
Yeah.
I'll be broke, but I'll be number 1 in class always.
Yeah.
So I was always that kid.
That's a great mindset.
Yeah. So I was like, no, this is the only thing I can control.
Yeah.
And I'll do that. I'll do that the best I could. And my thing was not being even number 1, breaking the record of the highest score since the school started. I had a beef. Like Michael Jordan's thing. I watched The Last Dance. I'm like, that's me. I had that beef. I'm like, no. I'm taking this personally. I need to break the record.
Yeah.
So I needed the gap between me and number 2 to be giant every time. Yeah. That's why I would take all my anger of being poor and living that life. So I was number 1, always getting A's and so forth. So when I was 17, I was so angry with the situation. I was in a terrible school, hated it, and didn't want to go back there. In January, school is opening. I didn't want to go back. And at the time, my mentor told me, just go. It was Monday, school opened. Wednesday, I haven't gone. So it was 2 weeks in. Just go today, right? Just go and see, what's up. If nothing happens and the month ends, maybe we'll look at different options. Went there. People were like, Joseph, where were you? The US guys came here. They were looking for number 1 and number 2 in school. Number 1, you weren't here. So you took number 2 and number 3.
Oh.
I'm like, what just happened? What's going on? The headmistress called me. She's like, you weren't here. You haven't been, school started 3 weeks ago. You haven't shown up. So, the guy who was number 3 took your spot. And the interview is tomorrow. So if you want, maybe go talk to him. Maybe he can give you a spot, but I am most likely not.
Yeah.
So I went, met a guy, very nice guy, he was my friend. He said, oh, thank God you came. I was terrified. I don't want to go to the US. I can't speak English. Just go, right? So the guy gave me back my spots, right? Which is like, looking back, I'm like, that's crazy. So went next morning, and that was the US Department of State has a program called the Youth Exchange and Study Program that takes kids from countries that have like almost a 50-50 population of like Muslims and Christians, which Tanzania has like some. We don't do census on religion, but it's roughly like half. Takes them, brings them to the US. They go through high school, as exchange students, and then go back home to generate impact and things like that. So went the interview, aced, got 100%, everything as usual. The next day was like interviews. The first one was like exams. The second day was like interviews.
Yeah.
Then I got in with my guy who was like second in my school, and we went to the US. That was crazy. There's a long story between what happened then, how we went to the US. But yeah, we ended up going, right? That's when we went to the US. We did tours, went DC, met big DC people and so forth, and then went to Iowa.
Iowa?
So I was in Iowa.
Do they pay for your housing?
Yes. You get host families. Host families take care of everything. Iowans are the nicest people you'll meet, right? Absolutely great. I had an absolute blast. US high school, experience. It was great. I loved it. But, as you know, you get a scholarship, universities, like 60K. You get 30K, covered. How are you going to find the 30K?
Yeah.
So I couldn't go to college. So I ended up having to go back to Tanzania. And when I went back to it, I was crushed. That was like my second downfall, right? Yeah. I was like, God damn it. I had it. Yeah. I had my dream. I was right here. Right here.
But I know like the producer has like we have like a tiny little segment that we want to play with you.
Yeah.
Because we know that you're from Tanzania.
Yes.
And we saw a few things on the internet and she'll explain it because she's really good at explaining.
Yeah.
Okay, so in Tanzania, how true are these traditions?
Okay.
And this is something that I researched, so I just want to know, is it true?
Yeah.
So, number one, you shouldn't use your left hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
It's very true. So the right hand is the dominant hand, right?
Yeah.
So kids aren't allowed to write and do the usual stuff with the left hand, but you're not supposed to give someone something with the left hand.
Wow.
You can't pick up if someone's giving you something. You can't pick up with the left hand. So
no.
It's considered disrespectful.
Wow.
It's very weird. Yeah.
You're trying to help someone and then use your left hand.
You can't use the left hand. You have to use the right hand. Yeah. It's weird. It's a very weird experience. It's a very weird experience, but it's true. It's true.
So
next one.
It says avoid public affection.
Yes, which I hated so much because like all my culture, like my infused culture growing up was American. So like you're in the house, TV, everything in TV is American. All the books are American, right? All the music is American. Like Mariah Carey, everything is American. So like my understanding of how to socialize was like American.
Yeah.
But influenced by my actual reality if I interact with people, which is African. So I had to edit. So I always felt confined.
Yeah.
So I never felt at home in Tanzania. I never felt like this is normal because I want to have like public display of affection. I want to do this, I want to do this. But in Tanzania, if you can't kiss, I've never seen anyone kiss their wives in public or forget about boyfriend and girlfriend. Like you can't. In school, drama would be hugging.
Oh.
Yes. It's like a girl hugged you. That's like drama.
Wow.
Yeah. You guys kissed. It's going to be talked about for I don't know how many years.
On the newspaper. On the newspaper.
It's a big deal. So like for me, that's like so obvious now. In music videos, that's insane. Like the artists get like banned, get their music videos taken down for like in how is it called? Indecency. Yeah. I'm like, what indecency? What are you talking about? This is insane. So for me, I was like, no, I can't live in this place. It's too much. But yeah, that's true. That's true.
Wow.
That's true.
Don't sniff food.
Oh yes. It's considered rude. Yeah.
Nathan always sniff
Oh, it's considered, it's considered rude. It's considered rude. Don't do it. It's considered very rude. Even if you're doing it to good intention, like you want to smell, to have a good.
Like
No, you can't do it. You can't do it.
Wow.
Unless you're like with your people and so forth, or at home. But it's considered rude. Like someone cooked, so you think it stinks. You think it. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one is ask before you take a photo.
True. Yeah, people are very sensitive with. People are extremely sensitive with like being public. Even being online, people don't like being online. Wow. Being if you walk around, like when I was doing NGO work, before I left, I would walk around with a camera and you take like pictures. You're doing survey for like where you're going to put the farms and things like that. People will ask you. It will be a big deal. Like, why are you taking pictures? What's going on? Like, what's going? This is like not people public. Pictures. You're just taking a normal public photo. It's a big deal. It's like, why? What? Are you an investigator? Like, what's going on? Are you like, it's like people are too sensitive. People are too sensitive. So they would rather not have anything about them online or like in the public setup. Yeah, which is it's a disadvantage, I think. Like, you want to have people that I've had access to. I tell them all the time, you want to be online as much as possible because in case you lose your ID card, like state ID, passport, whatever, you want to be able to just tell someone to Google you and they can verify your identity via search. Yeah. So if you're not online, how do we do that? Yeah.
Well, that's it for the segment, but why?
Thanks.
There's another thing I wanted to touch on, especially because we haven't really, we touched on your music and everything, but NA Tracks and also Kelsey, the producer, told me that when you go to a session with NA Tracks, who's his audio engineer, you do everything in one day. And by everything, it's writing the song, the beat, making the beat, mix and mastering the song, recording everything in one day, from morning to night.
Yeah, 8 hours. So only 8 hours. So this is my philosophy,
so
right?
rare.
Yeah, this is my philosophy. This is my music.
But why? And how do you?
So we have this thing. So in my company, we have 3 like things that guy does, which are like take initiative, over deliver, and do more with less. So in those things, my growing up since school, going to like consulting work and running my startup, you want to deliver before the deadline at any cost. Even on at any cost, it means at the cost of, quality, at the cost of anything. You want to deliver before the deadline, right? That's one principle. The reason is delivering past is like ER, right? If I can figure out what your problem is after you're dead, I didn't help you.
Yeah.
So the time pressure is very important, that part. So how do I go through my process? So I get melodies first, always. Either I dream the melodies or they just come up and things like that. So I record them on my phone. Then if the feeling with that melody is too strong, I'll automatically come up with lyrics. They'll just come. I write the lyrics. Once I have the lyrics, if I listen to, and I'll do the demo with my guitar at home or my piano, I listen to that demo like a day later, 2 days later, with like fresh ears. If I still have the same feeling, this justifies that I need to put this song out. And some songs just have like a very strong feeling, like, it needs to go out, right? But at that point, I don't know what genre, like what version, like what aura the song has to have. I don't know. I can only know if I'm with Nate, with Nathan in the studio, right? So I, book hours, 8 hours. So one piece, 8 hours. Show up. I remember we had this with Nathan first time. Showed up, like we have 8 hours. I want everything done. Done, like complete done. Like we figure things out, create the beats, lay the vocals, edit lyrics if I want, mix, master. Like if I leave here, I'm putting up the song on CD Baby for distribution. And he was like, I have never seen anything. And he didn't think I'll do it that fast because most of the artists he produces for
weeks,
would take weeks and weeks and months, like more than a year to do like a couple of songs.
Yeah.
So I did it in just one go. And our first song was I Am Meant For You, doing very well now. It's like has like almost 400k streams.
Yeah.
Our second song, Avani, has more than 1 million streams now, right? 8 hours only. And now the thing with producers, like I've tried so many different producers. If the producer doesn't have the same emotional, like the same emotional feeling you have about the song, or doesn't know how your references feel like and why you want a song to sound that way, you're doomed, because you guys won't be hearing each other.
Yeah.
You'll be having these sounds and the producer can't get it and so forth. But Nathan, we're like 100% connected.
Yeah.
Like if I tell him play, want a piano version to sound like that, give it sound, he knows exactly what's in my mind.
Yeah.
He'll play it exactly how it's in my mind. It's insane. It's insane. Like the synchronicity in those 8 hours is insane. So it's so intoxicating, and it's like no break. Like no food break.
No.
Nothing. It's 8 hours.
Non-stop.
Constant 8 hours. It's the most fulfilling thing ever. So we do 8 hours. We figure out, how do you want? Do you want it to be rock? Do you want it to be rap? Do you want it to be this? Do you want a piano? Do you want a guitar run? Do you all of that? That takes the most time, actually.
Yeah.
Figuring out how we want the song, to be led and so forth.
Yeah, once you get the ball rolling,
Yeah. Once we have the ball rolling, it starts running from that point.
Well, Joseph, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you
we
for
really
having
appreciate
me.
coming
Thank
on,
you for having me.
spitting that amazing knowledge.
Thanks, man.
Joseph, tell the audience where they can find you.
Yeah, so they can find me on mainly I think on Instagram, which is at Rutakangwa, so RUTAKANGWA, and on Spotify, so Joseph Rutakangwa. So Instagram and Spotify, you can find me there. And I also have a TikTok. So I started TikTok, like it's the same at Rutakangwa. I'm so new to TikTok.
Yeah, we'll follow him.
So yeah, forgive me, whatever you find there. Yeah, man.
Go follow him, subscribe, or everything you need to do for him.
Yeah.
Peace.